to talk about in a productive and beneficial way. I'm your host Neelum, and joining me on the in the studio, not on the studio, in the studio this morning is my guest Rihanna. Assalamu alaikum, Rihanna.
Walaikum salam.
How are you?
Alhamdulillah, all well, all well.
I'm excited to have Rihanna on the show today because I think I've been trying to get hold of this busy woman for a long time. So, Rihanna, although it's a different topic that we're coming on the show about, but I'm glad to have you on the show today. So,
Alhamdulillah, I hope I don't disappoint.
no, the bar is not very high, so don't worry. How's your week been?
Alhamdulillah, it's busy like many others. We're kind of many other mums. We're drawing in on half term, and we're probably grateful for that. Looking forward to a bit of a break from the daily grind.
Yes, absolutely. I know there's probably many that are not actually looking forward to half term, but I am, because I just want to be in my pajamas. I just don't want to be doing the school runs, and I supply teach as well. So I just want to have that time out. So
just an extra hour in bed.
That's it.
That'll do.
That's it. Absolutely. I'm glad you sympathise with my pain. So yes, I'm looking forward to. But I bet when it comes to half term, I'm not going to get any of that. It's going to be. I'm going to have to be chef for the whole week, I think, trying to find out which menus are what. I just want to say it's my eldest's birthday today. She's 17 today. So, mashallah, I just want to wish my Sarah a happy birthday. She did say, Mom, don't, but I'm doing it, Sarah. That's what we do, don't we?
Sarah, all your mates are at college. It's fine. No one's going to hear it.
I just want to embarrass you. So happy birthday. And I wish her all the best. And I wish Allah blesses her with many years of health and happiness. Ameen. Okay, so today, as I said, it's the last day of half term, and we are looking at it. It was a bit of a switch this time round. I've got family in London, and they had their half term this week, and and next week is when they go back to school.
It's happened a couple of times. So I have family in Reading, and they all were last. Well, they're in half term at the moment, so I think there can sometimes be with half term a little bit of a
shift
forward backwards.
I know. My brother made the most of it because he managed to get good ticket prices for a holiday, so he's out in sunny Dubai. So yeah, he's gone. And I think we have a message come through. Let me just have a look at this. Okay, I'm going to leave that for the admin to deal with. I think that's an admin question there. Okay, so yes, listeners, we are live on air, reaching out to all our listeners in Luton and surrounding areas through the airwaves at Inspire FM 105.1 FM. You can also connect to the show via tune in through the Inspire FM webpage, and we are also streaming live on the Facebook page, where you must leave a thumbs up, and you can also leave any comments around today's topic. As always, I am taking in WhatsApp and text messages on the studio number 07779 481 822. So in today's show, my guest and I will be talking about Rishta networking, a matrimonial service available to the community. Rishta networking has ran now for a few good years, alhamdulillah, and they've also ran a couple of events as well. But before I unfold and talk about the events and services that they offer, Rihanna, for those who haven't had the privilege of hearing your voice or about you, can I just get you to briefly introduce yourself?
Yes.
I say briefly because I'm sure we could probably go on for the hour.
So yeah, I'm Rihanna Faisal. I'm a mum. I live in Luton. I spend a lot of time doing school runs, but alongside the school runs, I've done lots of work with the masajid over the past decade or more, supporting particularly on issues, the kind of more societal issues that our community have faced. So I've done quite a bit of work around Islamophobia, for example, around some of the counter-extremism stuff, and prevent. I've been involved in schools and education, and really trying to advocate for our community in various different spaces. I'm currently chair of two local charities. So one is FACES, which is a young people safeguarding charity, and we focus quite a bit on thinking about how children from, or young people from marginalized backgrounds, minority backgrounds, um, are harmed through some of the ways that people think about safeguarding, and how they might be missed because of the way that some of the people think about safeguarding. I'm also chair of the Raise Up Foundation, which again is a local charity. We work with young people. And again, we're really focused on how to ensure that our young people really fulfill their potential and are able to access, you know, a wide range of opportunities. Essentially, I guess our core aim, our overarching aim is around social mobility and moving families out of poverty or relative poverty, and help young people develop those pathways to success.
Wow, mashallah, Rihanna. See, I told you we could have, and I'm pretty sure there's more to add to that. But thank you so much for that introduction. And you are a great contributor to the community. I always say this about yourself. I think you're chairing up quite a few events as well, and so your link with Rishta Networking. Can you explain your role here? What you're doing? Before, I guess, for those that are tuned in for the first time and probably not knowing about Rishta Networking, what is Rishta Networking?
So Rishta Networking came out of lots of discussions within the community where, a lot of, I guess parents were talking, to each other about the challenges of finding potential matches for their children. I think some of the traditional routes that, particularly, I think in the Pakistani community, Tariq just asked me how much sugar I needed in my coffee. It's really throwing me, but Tariq, if you're listening, just the one. So we're talking about the challenges that parents are facing around finding, through the traditional means that we'd had out there. But I think particularly when you're Pakistani, we haven't really, in Britain, and perhaps things are different actually in Pakistan, but we haven't really moved out of kind of our own very kind of close
family.
network or family or network. But that wasn't working anymore. So it was kind of thinking about, okay, how do we move forward, but move forward in a way that is comfortable for people who've never done this sort of thing before, for people who this is completely new for. So that's where the idea for Rishta Networking came from. And I suppose I'll speak in a little bit about exactly what the day looks like and how we do things. In terms of my involvement, I cannot take very much credit for it at all. I got a phone call from my husband telling me that a particular brother was going to call and he was going to ask me to do something and that I shouldn't say no. So I was just wondering what this call was about, and the call came and it was about hosting and supporting on the day. And if you just heard all the things that I talk about that I normally do, this was slightly left wing, I guess, slightly, to the outside of what I'm normally involved in. But absolutely, as soon as I heard it, I thought actually it might be something that I haven't normally done, but it would be something that I recognize that they're recognize as an issue. I work with young people, actually some of that they talk about and share with me as well. So I was really pleased to be asked and really pleased to be part of the whole process. I hope what I try to do is I know that lots of people come there and they're feeling uncomfortable. They're not really sure. And I hope that what I do, so people might phone in now and say, no, you absolutely don't. But I hope that what I do is help people feel comfortable on the day. And just to try and make things run as smoothly as we can.
And I can vouch for that, Rihanna, because I have attended one of the events where you hosted.
Excellent.
And so alhamdulillah. And I think, what's great about having you host the event is that your language, you can reach out to people in many languages. My Urdu is very limited, so trying to, and obviously this is a network where there will be mums that are coming, and obviously English won't be their first language. So if I were to stand there and speak, I would just say it all in English. And so it was great that you were able to reach out to people in English, in Urdu, and a little bit of Bahari as well.
Yeah.
So it's lovely. I think we're going to challenge you and try and get you to speak a bit of Bengali now. But, you know, I'm sure you're getting there.
Bengali friends, if you're listening, send me some advice.
Yeah. So, you know, alhamdulillah. And I think that's why you've hosted the event very well, because you've been able to make all those people feel welcomed, and you know, they all understand what's going on, and they all understand the outline of the day, because you've been able to communicate it in that way. So I can vouch for that. I know that you did very well there. So Ibrahana, I mean, talk to me about the frustration around marriages, because, you know, do you think there's a growing concern, and, you know, why is there such a taboo around families? Because yes, you know, the traditional way of getting married was either within the family, or then, you know, a good friend has a daughter or a son, and you know, in the past it's worked, but it's not, you know, working now. And, you know, people are having different interests. You know, why do you think these challenges are coming up now?
I mean, I think that there are lots of reasons. You know, I think by and large, young people are much less inclined, and I'm going to go out there on a limb and suggest that particularly girls are much less inclined to, for example, go back to Pakistan and, you know, marry a spouse from there, which is what significant numbers of us did do, and they did work. But I think, you know, if we think about the world that we're living in at the moment, the Britain that we're living in at the moment, it's actually very difficult for somebody to come over. You know, alhamdulillah, we know that our girls, and we work towards making sure that our girls are educated, and they deserve a spouse, a match that's of a similar caliber. You know, obviously, you know, men within Islam and marriage within Islam comes with certain responsibilities, and we need to ensure that, you know, women are entitled to have a spouse that is able to fulfill those responsibilities. And as parents, we want to ensure that, you know, we support them in finding a spouse that is able to fulfill those responsibilities. So I think some of it is around the fact that it just doesn't work for the Britain that we're living in today, where it's actually very difficult to get a job if you don't speak the language, for example. It's very difficult, or a job that you can survive on, should we say. Very difficult to get a job if you don't have particular qualifications at a salary that, again, gives you a sort of comfortable lifestyle. And although that is not, you know, again, for listeners, you know, that is not the be all and end all. It is, of course, something that all parents you know, take into consideration. Obviously, all people are, you know, are entitled to want those things for themselves. So I think that's one of the main things. I mean, anecdotally, I might say that I probably still do see some young men who are willing to go over to Pakistan, more so than young women, and perhaps again that is around you know, them thinking about responsibilities in terms of marriage. You know, and that, again, that might be more acceptable, and it might work a bit better if the woman, for example, is unable to get a high-paying job. That might still work, but it's much harder for a woman who might want to have children, who might need to take time off work, to be able to make that choice.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, I mean, when people look at rishtas possibly from back home, you know, Pakistan, Bangladesh, India, wherever these may be, where back home is, a lot of the children that are educating out there now are, the education standards are raising in these countries as well. So you can see that children are educating, but we are having children that are raised in this country, and you must see it through the youth work that you do, that children that are raised in this country that have jobs that, you know, just can't get the qualifications, and getting a job, even if you're born and bred here, is difficult. So to bring somebody from another country and let them face the language barrier, the culture difference, everything, it's quite hard, and it's quite difficult, especially if it's going to be a spouse that you're going to totally depend on to run the house, run everything.
Absolutely, it's quite a heavy burden. So if I think back to, you know, my parents and my uncles and aunts generation, they were often both the first generation of people here. So they were kind of going through that struggle in equal ways. Whereas, you know, I'm third generation, my children are fourth generation. It becomes very different for somebody, for children like mine, to then, you know, for someone to come into that context. And it's much more challenging. So absolutely, you know, in terms of people who are coming over, it's difficult for them. And perhaps nobody really quite appreciates how difficult it can be. I mean, also young people say to me things like, you know, Auntie, that we, you know, I want to marry somebody who I can have a good conversation with, who shares the same sort of quote unquote cultural background to me, so that you've got the same sort of cultural references to growing up, or that you understand politics, or and that won't necessarily be there for somebody who hasn't grown up here in Britain. And again, those are all things that people are entitled to, you know, want from a spouse, in terms of the way that they develop their relationship, because it is such an important relationship. One of the things that I almost always say when we're at Rishta networking is, you know, everybody comes with a little list of things that they want. But whatever those are, that's fine. People can want what they want. But I always think about a couple of things that I think are really important. And first, I think, above all, is good character, because actually all of those kind of things that we might think represent, you know, someone who is sort of religious and practicing, may be there, but that doesn't always equate to good character. And life is much better when you make the difficult journey that it is with somebody who has good character. And I think, you know, the other one is that, you know, somebody who, you know, alongside the good character, is just in terms of, you know, personality, that you've got somebody that, you know, that you can feel able to talk to openly. I mean, you know, imagine a marriage where you can't, well, you know, where you can't do those very normal things, that you're not able to talk through difficult challenges that you're having, where you're not able to have kind of open and direct conversations. You know, I would probably be able to survive if I have survived, actually, you know, without lots and lots of money, or you know, all sorts of other things. But I would not have. I think it would have been very difficult, you know, if you have a marriage where those elements are not there.
No, absolutely, and I agree with you. And I think, you know, this is the challenge now people are facing, because I see now. I mean, we are that generation that are going to soon be starting to, you know, reach out and network like this.
Sorry, Sarah. If you're listening.
Oh no, she's got plenty of years.
She's got plenty of years.
But you know, it will be a question. It will be a question, and I think it's breaking that barrier and having that traditional way of doing things, breaking that barrier and saying, look, you know, it's worked, but it's not working, and we need to start doing something a bit differently. So, you know, and this is where Rishta networking comes into the equation. So listeners, if you have just tuned in this morning, I am joined by Rehana Faisal, and we are talking about Rishta networking, who have an event coming up soon, but we are talking a bit more about what Rishta networking is and how it has come about. So if you do have any questions around Rishta networking, around Rishta finding, or anything around today's topic, please do message in on 0779 481 822. How do we now? How is Rishta networking different? Because there's loads of matrimonial services out there. So how is Rishta networking different in helping the community?
So Rishta networking, I think, is really unique in the way that it operates. And what I'm not going to say here today is that this is the best way to do it or the only way to do it. But I think this is one way. And this was, again, through discussions and thinking about the unique context of where we are and some of the kind of challenges that people were talking to us about. So there are quite a lot of networking events that happen that essentially the young people themselves go to. And, you know, there'll be 5-minute discussions and people will move around. And I know both from parents, but also from young people, that that's not always very comfortable. Women especially say that they don't like that because that they often feel that they're judged primarily on looks,
Yeah.
before anything else, which I suspect it has some truth to it. Um, and obviously, there are sometimes concerns for some of those events around Sharia compliance. Um, but what we also recognise that for people who have never done this sort of thing before, that's straight into the deep end. And so what we have here is a really kind of soft touch, easier first introduction where the female representatives of the young people will sign up. They will come along. So, if I was, for example, going for my niece, she could tell me what she wanted. I would go and I would speak to other families. If whilst we're having those conversations, there's a family that I think they might be, might be people that we're interested in, then I would write them down on my bit of paper. And if they're interested in me, they'll write me down. And then afterwards, the team work on putting together the matches. So, if there's been a mutual sort of match, people will be brought together. I think probably just networking is the only service that does it this way. After the initial matches, so we know that people will be able to email each other, people will be able to call each other, take that discussion further. One thing that I think, I was perhaps a little bit skeptical. No, in all honesty, I was a bit skeptical about how this would work, given that the young people themselves are not there.
Yeah.
But actually thinking kind of more broadly about life and how we live it, again, it's a lot nicer if everybody gets on. And we know that within our culture, there is, we are very family orientated. And if families get on and like each other, that is all the more helpful. So on both those levels, in terms of ease for young people as an initial introduction, so it's somebody who's been vetted by the family a little bit, and there's still that parental involvement. It helps. I mean, again, I have some parents who will say, my son or daughter does want to get married, but they just feel really embarrassed about coming to an event, and they shouldn't. But if that's how they feel, so it's easier for them to say, okay, you go and see what you think. Again, we're not saying it's the be all and end all. And down the line, obviously, the young people themselves will meet and talk. But it's, I hope, a softer first introduction, particularly for people who, are not used to this sort of way of looking for rishtas outside of their, sort of usual circle of friends and family.
Yeah. And, Rihanna, it's very interesting what you said there, because initially my whole I was very judgmental around the whole way this networking worked, because I thought at the end of the day, it's the young people that are getting married, so they need to judge for themselves. But now stepping back and listening to, actually, yes, there's some reservations around the young people themselves, and also the families. This is the first time they are venturing out like this, so it's a comfortable way for them to ease themselves into that. Okay, we are now stepping out of our usual traditional way of doing things, and we are now looking for other thing. But why do you think now when I look at potentials, and I'm trying to see, okay, this could be a possible match for so and so and so and so, the ages, I got married at 25, so when I see anyone past that age not married, it makes me think, gosh, why? What do you think is that barrier?
I mean, I think there are lots and lots of different things going on. Again, with the breakdown of those traditional methods, I guess that it's taking longer for lots of people. There is probably a level of if I think back to again my parents' generation, our generation, breakdowns of marriage were really, really rare. They're not so rare now. Maybe there is a level of reservation, in terms of making the right decision, because it's the decision of a lifetime, isn't it? And you want to make sure that you get that right. But I do think a lot of it is around. And actually, the other thing, obviously, children are, we are educating our children a lot more than perhaps earlier generations were. So, graduates, postgraduates are not unusual as they might have been sort of 20, 30 years ago. I'll say my time, not our time.
I know. Rihanna, we have actually now come to the first half of the show. I can't believe where the time's gone. So listeners, if you stay tuned in, because we haven't even talked about the event and how it's run. So Rihanna will be unveiling a little bit more about how Rishta networking actually works and what to expect on the day. And also if you are interested in registering for the event as well. But we are now heading over to a short commercial break. I'm sure you've taken some good pointers around the topic today. Please do keep sending in those messages on 07779 481 822, and that's WhatsApp or text messages. But for now, go refill your hot drinks or cold drinks, whatever it is you're having with me this morning, and join us after a short commercial break. Assalamu alaikum.
This program will continue after the break. Continue listening to Inspire FM. Inspire FM.
Inspire 105.1 FM.
Assalamu alaikum. Listen to Inspire FM for amazing halal entertainment.
The best radio station ever. Nothing can beat it. It's for everyone, adults and children.
AK Windows South Limited, manufacturers and installers of high-quality UPVC windows and doors, bifold doors, composite doors, conservatories, porches, skypods, fascias, guttering, and much, much more. We specialize in double glazing and triple glazing using the best German profile. If you want quality at affordable prices, AK Windows is the place to go. If your house needs a facelift, you know who to trust. For a free quote, call AK Windows today on 01582 483 777 or visit us at Unit 10E, Britannia Estate, Leagrave Road, Luton.
हेलो, मेरा नाम डॉक्टर सैयदा है। अपने जिस्म में अगर आपको कुछ ठीक महसूस ना हो रहा हो तो हमसे बात करें। कैंसर के बारे में फिक्रमंद रहकर परेशान ना हो। टेस्ट कराने से ये परेशानी जाती रहेगी। जब तक टेस्ट नहीं कराएंगे तब तक आपको मालूम नहीं हो पाएगा। NHS आपको देखना चाहती है। अपनी GP practice से राब्ता करें।
Had an accident, a bump, trip or fall? Then you need Claims Specialists, your first choice for accident claims. The Specialist Claims Company on Dunstable Road in Luton. With excellent access to expert solicitors and on a no-win, no-fee basis, Claims Specialists use their 30 years experience to help get you the best compensation possible. For injuries at work, taxi, PCO and private hire incidents, road accidents and vehicle damage, medical negligence, plus rented housing disrepair. In short, when you need to make any claim, click on claimspecialists.co.uk or call 01582 733 222.
अगर आपकी सोशल हाउसिंग की रिहाइश में कोई मसला हो तो छुटकारा पाने का तरीका जानें। अगर आपने अपने लैंडलॉर्ड से शिकायत की है और आप उसके जवाब से खुश नहीं हैं, तो आप हाउसिंग ओम्बड्समैन को शिकायत भेज सकते हैं। पिछले साल हाउसिंग ओम्बड्समैन ने लैंडलॉर्ड को रिहायशियों को £1 मिलियन से ज्यादा मुआवजा अदा करने का हुक्म दिया था। एक महफूज घर का होना सबका हक है। अपने हुकूक जाने, मुलाहिजा करें gov.uk/social housing.
Today, 6,000 children will be orphaned. 1 in 10 people will go to bed hungry. Right now, 2.2 billion can't access clean water. Human Appeal makes the most of your mercy, protecting orphans, feeding families, treating the sick, saving lives, and restoring hope. So please, give mercy now. Visit humanappeal.org.uk or call 0161 225 0225.
बचपन से सुनते आए हैं, ये नहीं कहना, वो नहीं करना, सवाल नहीं पूछना, और फिर इसी रविश से हमारे ज़हनी और माशरती मसाइल उलझते चले गए। हमारे मसाइल हमारे हालात से नहीं, हमारे ख्यालात से पैदा होते हैं, और ख्यालात दुरुस्त किए जा सकते हैं। मैं हूँ आज़ाद, और अगर आप भी चाहते हैं कि हम सब आज़ाद हो सकें अपने ही पैदा किए हुए मसाइल से, तो बात कीजिए, क्योंकि अब बोल के लब आज़ाद हैं तेरे। ओनली ऑन इंस्पायर FM।
From the studios of Inspire FM, the time is now 10:30.
Good morning and Assalamu alaikum. It's Friday, 16th of February, and the time has now just gone 10:30. You are tuned into Mother's Planet at Inspire FM 105.1 FM. I am your host, Neelum, and joined in the studio with me today is my guest, Rihanna. I'm trying to get my words out there. So Rihanna and I were talking about Rishta networking earlier in the show. We were talking about how this is a matrimonial service that's offered to the community. It's not just bound to Luton.
No, we get people who have come in. I mean, thinking back to different events, we've had people from across London, Sheffield, Nottingham,
Wow.
High Wycombe, Slough.
Mm.
Thinking about all the many people I've spoken to over the years. So we get people from across the country
Wow.
coming along to the event.
Yeah, wow, there you go. So it's a matrimonial service that is offered, but with a slight twist, where it's the representatives of the female representatives of each, the boy and the girl, that come into this event. And the idea behind it, Rihanna, is
the idea behind it is just recognizing that there is an an issue in terms of finding suitable matches, that where our traditional methods weren't really working for us anymore. But also recognizing that there was some discomfort in our communities about kind of doing things in a different way, moving outside of their the network of family and friends, and how can we expand people's networks for them. So the idea was sort of born from that, about having a kind of a soft touch way of introducing families to one another, and seeing where that goes.
Yeah, and have there been success stories?
Alhamdulillah, there have been success stories. I'll get somebody to, hopefully, who's listening, who can send me some messages and tell me exactly how many there have been. But we know there have been successes. We know that we've had weddings, but for me, one of the most important things that have come from this, from speaking to families, is building people's confidence about kind of venturing out there and looking for potential matches for their children and their family, and even for the children themselves, to say, right, okay, actually, I can have a conversation with people. I can put myself out there and say that I'm looking for marriage. So I think that's one of the biggest things. If you've not done, weddings and matches and in this way in the past, it can feel quite a daunting thing. But because this is such a soft touch way of doing it, I do try to make it comfortable. Albeit that we are doing something that's really serious, and I do remind people of the seriousness of it. I do want it to be something that is an enjoyable evening, and I think the women will say that it's an enjoyable evening. At the end of it, they have a sort of a nice sit down 3-course meal. There's lots of friendly chatter going on. I've made lots of friends.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's lovely. And I think, as you said, because yes, the reservations is always around, why would you want the female representatives to meet and not the actual young people themselves? Why not? Because ultimately they're going to marry. But as you say, a marriage is, yes, it's a commitment between the young people, but we are, especially in our culture, we are very family orientated. So if the families get on, and if you have built that network with the family, then, things should, inshallah, come a bit more smoother. So in terms of the event, let's talk a bit more about the Rishta networking event. Now, the next one is
1st of March.
Okay. And talk me through how the registration works, and a little bit more about the day, what actually people can expect on the day.
So registration is really, really simple and straightforward. It's all kind of really nicely slick and automated. You go online to rishta-networking.co.uk. We'll take a little bit of information about you in terms of your age, your profession, what you're looking for, that sort of thing.
And this is, so if it's a female aunt that's represented,
so you'll register the young person, so add their details. We'll also take the details of the representative who's coming along, but not so much information about their likes and dislikes. So those details will be taken. On the day, we will I mean, we've had sort of over 100 on occasion.
Wow.
Families turn up. So what we do is we divide people up in terms of ages.
Mhm.
So there might be a sort of 18 to 25 age group, then there'll be a 26 to 31 or whatever.
Mhm.
I'm plucking numbers out of thin air, but
Yeah.
you get what I'm saying. And we just then have 5 minutes. Everybody gets a sheet of paper, and everybody has a code. So I might be number 31. Everybody will have a code. You get a sheet of paper, you have a 5-minute conversation. If you think, okay, this family or this young person seems that they might be suitable for my young person, you write their number down on your
Oh,
sheet.
the code. That's the significance for the code. So
That's
the code is
significance of the code. So it's
okay.
all sort of slightly anonymous. We then collect those sheets at the end of the evening. Where there are matches, by later on that day or the following morning, you will get an email to say you have been matched with the following people. And then we then pass on contact details. And then families are free to take things from there and
Wow.
develop the conversations. We do have some time at the end. So, you might be in the 21 to 25 age group, but you might actually be happy to consider somebody older than that. So we have time at the end so that there's sort of a free time where you can talk to people across those different groups and see if there's a connection there. Nice meal at the end.
So that all is at the end. So you do all the networking first, and
Yes.
and then the meals at the end.
And then the meal is at the end.
Okay.
Again, a nice sort of social time. Sometimes we see that families are carrying on their conversations during that time, particularly if they've made, a good connection. I hear this year there has been an offer of a free wedding reception for the next couple. So,
wow.
I mean, to me, that's reason enough for itself to turn up. These are expensive things. But alhamdulillah, Crescent Hall, who is their venue partner, have
Wow.
offered a free wedding reception for the next couple. But it's a nice evening. So look, for anybody who is listening and you are thinking about marriage, or your young person is interested about getting married, but you're not sure how to go about this, or you're a bit nervous about how to approach things, then come along, join us, have some nice conversations, have a nice meal, have several cups of tea. It'll be a nice evening, hopefully a comfortable evening, and we can sort of begin introducing you to the world of Rishta networking.
Yeah, and I guess as you say, for some it will be very daunting because
Absolutely.
it's going to be the first time that they've actually totally ventured out. I mean, it could be a third generation family that doesn't have any family here, and they are just doing this for the first time for their child, so really don't even know where to start. So again,
I mean, 80% of the women I speak to at the end of it say, I was really worried. I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
But no, this has been okay. This has been
Nice.
good. And that's probably the feedback that I get, on the evening from the majority of women. Some people are really comfortable with it. They've been to other events, and but those people do tend to be in the minority. It is oftentimes people who, who say, I wasn't sure, but I've turned up, but it's been okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is nice to do it this traditional way. Do you think going forward, from your own experience now, having hosted these events, there should be, or there could be potential for maybe doing another event where those potential matches, the actual people attend, the young people attend, and have a service for them?
So I think I don't want to make executive decisions on behalf of the team. I'm imagining they're listening in right now. Absolutely. Look, there are lots of services around that at the moment. It has been something that we have talked about on and off. Certainly if there are people listening to me here and now and think, no, Rahana, you're wrong, it should be done differently, or can we have that as well, then please do message in, get in touch. It's something that we would definitely consider. We what we have always said, that we don't think that there is that this is the only way to do things. We think there are and that all of those other things that are happening are valid, and they have their own successes. We were thinking about and I've talked about it a lot, I guess, now, but we were thinking about families who've not really done this before. How do we make this comfortable? We took a lot of advice from, scholars to say, to try to create something that was, Sharia compliant. And this is what we came up with. Now, obviously, we can do similar, take that advice and move forward with a plan where young people are there. We are open to do that. We have had discussions. We'll continue to have discussions, but absolutely, if there are people listening who think they would like us to do something like that locally, then we're open to having thinking about that, definitely.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. I mean, and in the events that you've been hosting, how long has Rishta Networking now been running?
I mean, I was significantly younger, I think, when it started. So I think maybe 5 years we're into now. Again, someone might correct me, but pre-pandemic, we started up. We had a bit of a lull during the pandemic.
Yeah,
we've had, I think, three sessions since then, and maybe I think 4 prior to that. So it's been going for a bit.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. And do you think, Rehana, from the events that you've been hosting over the years, are you seeing an increase in or an uptake in the people that are attending?
I definitely see that we're getting an increased number of people coming to the events, definitely, and it's actually, as I said, from in terms of where they're coming from, across the country. We're seeing, and I think the more that people hear about it, the more that we are getting interested in what we're doing. So numbers definitely have gone. We were obviously very nervous first time round about whether this was going to work or not. But I think we also have grown in confidence. I think the way that we have delivered it has improved over the years. We've taken on people's feedback. It's hopefully a lot more streamlined than it has been or it was in our sort of Rishta Networking number 1 to where we are now. But yes, definitely, I think numbers are increasing. But we're also getting requests from different parts of the country to say, this was brilliant. Could you come and do it in our town?
Wow.
So, we can see that, again, for some people, this is working.
Yeah, absolutely. And, just to be clear, the event is open to all. So it's not just a Pakistani event.
Definitely not. So we're probably... on the day, there's a good mix of people from different backgrounds, Pakistani and Bangladeshi backgrounds, and even beyond that, so Sri Lankan, Egyptian. I'm trying to again think of Afghan. Luton has
very diverse,
is very diverse Muslim community, and they are all represented there.
Okay, good. So I think that's a concern that many people would have. We've talked about what happens post-event. So post-event, there are follow-up calls and things. So is there anything, from the event that you found that these are typical issues that people, often like feedback, things like that people are, that could possibly be hindering the event or the process of matchmaking?
To be honest, I mean, feedback is broadly positive. I mean, sometimes on the day, for example, we try very hard, but we don't often, sometimes we don't get equal numbers of men and women applying. And there has been, I think the last one actually was a definite anomaly, but there has been a tendency for more women to register than men. And so obviously the balance has been difficult to strike. I do think that comes from an attitude that, I think partly because, I think I said this right at the beginning, I think men are probably still a little bit more comfortable about marrying from abroad perhaps than girls are, because of the differential in terms of responsibilities in terms of marriage. And I also think perhaps, parents, rightly or wrongly, think that they will magically find somebody, and are willing to wait a little bit longer for that to happen.
Yeah.
Perhaps boys just think that will happen for them, and they won't have to, go down this. You're raising your eyebrows.
No, but it's true.
Because we think that
Yeah.
because we recognize that in lots of the young men that we speak to.
Yeah.
So we do sometimes have that imbalance. And what I will say to you, mums and dads, if you're listening, and young men, if you're listening, if you are ready for marriage, then take that step. Nobody's going to magically turn up at your doorstep. And you might think that something will happen organically, and I'm saying that this is an opportunity for something to happen organically.
Yeah.
In life, you will always meet somebody through some sort of introduction, and this is all that is. It's an introduction, but it comes with the right intention from the outset. You are two people who are looking to engage in marriage, and that's the best way to begin any discussion, to have the right intentions. So if you're listening and you think, well, I want to get married, but I've still got time, so I'm not going to do this, I am going to say to you that do this, because again, when I speak to families at Rishta networking, some of them, particularly for the older gentlemen that are there, in their early 30s, thinking we just thought something would happen, and it hasn't happened.
Yeah, absolutely. And it can get quite daunting, because they think, oh, I'm only 25, and before they know it, they'll blink and they're 30, and they're still in that bubble of, we'll have someone who'll just come along, and that's not happening. So I think it's important that as you say, as soon as someone thinks that, yes,
I'm ready for marriage. I mean, again, you might be 30 and feel like you're not ready for marriage, and who am I to tell you otherwise? But if you are thinking, actually, I am ready for marriage now, I would like to get married, then be proactive, take those steps to do that, and try and do that in the in the right way. And I think what this event does is ensure that from the outset that the intentions are entirely honorable.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you said, it's been looked by all the local ustads and imams at the mosque and everything. So this is a very halal environment, and it's probably the most safest and easiest first step to take, to try and say, right, okay, we need to venture out. It's interesting though that you shared this statistic about it being more girls that are coming forward than boys. So listeners, if you are tuned in this morning and you have a son that's looking to get married, I think it's this event is for you. So the registration, is there a fee? Do you know the costs around it and how they do it?
There is a fee. I am just going to get someone to let me know what it is this time round. I think it's about £30.
Okay,
but hopefully somebody will I will just double check on that. There is a fee, but remember that within that you get a 3-course meal. Obviously, you get the networking experience, and
having someone being found for you potentially as well.
Alhamdulillah.
Yeah.
Cheaper, double the price.
Yeah, exactly. No, because I don't think when people are facing obstacles, really, you could put a price to something like this. It's just however it comes. I mean, obviously the networking event has their own overheads and costs to cover.
Absolutely.
And so to try and keep things at a minimum, that price is great. So I think the concern that many people had is, especially with nowadays, when you input your data into something and you are registering your likes and dislikes and giving very personal information, many people are quite reserved about what's going to happen, or worried about what's going to happen to the data. Now, just to be clear, when they register, it's just data, it's no photos uploaded or anything like that?
No, not at all. Because it's not, those things are irrelevant to the way that the event functions. So digital networking is fully GDPR compliant. Data is stored remotely in the cloud, Amazon servers. I'm told they're highly secure. Access to the names of people who are registered is limited to a very, very small number of admin users. It's all password protected. So, I mean, I don't see those. I don't know who's on there. So, there's access to very few numbers of people. We've got, 2 or 3 people on the team who are kind of highly experienced in terms of IT and security. And, we have created this as something that meets a religious requirement, and we're not going to fall down on that requirement at this stage. So we consider those things as an amana. It's, you know,
Yes.
it's a trust, and we take that really seriously.
Absolutely.
One of the things I say when I'm hosting the event, and there are families there, and I know some people feel really uncomfortable around it. One of the things that the messages that I give, I say is, you know, what happens at Rishta networking stays at Rishta networking, and that applies to everybody. So we might go there, and people might go there, and you might, you know, see somebody, you know, but we always, you know, make it really clear that we are Muslims first and foremost, and we, you know, and we honor each other, and we protect each other's privacy, and we don't speak about each other in ways that we wouldn't like ourselves spoken about. So, you know, we are really, really strong around, you know, making this a sort of environment that people feel safe and supported and protected.
Alhamdulillah, mashallah. And that's great, because I think that's the reassurance people need, and especially around data and the fact that no pictures are being uploaded.
No.
And I like that, because yes, you know, that's not the criteria of the whole thing. It, as you said, character is the most important. So you know, before we come to an end of the show and I get you to share contact details and where people can register and everything, is anyone that's tuned in today that's probably heard about this show for the event, for the first time. It's running on the 1st of March, which is a Saturday, I believe. Was that a Friday?
It's a Friday.
It's a Friday. It's a Friday, and it's an evening event, and it's on the 1st of March. Now, reassuring words. You know, you have reassured. You've changed my outlook on it, because I was very, very reserved about this networking event. I thought that actually, with it being the female representatives, it's not going to work. But actually, hearing from you and listening to how the days run, you've swayed me. So you've made me think different now, alhamdulillah. So how can you reassure those that are tuned in today, this morning, that are listening, that are thinking, actually, maybe perhaps I want to come for the first time and see what the event's all about?
So what I'm going to say is, you know, Neelum and I have both sat here, and we've both been really honest to say that we were a bit skeptical. And praying hard that my children are not listening. But I'm saying also that as a parent, I recognize how challenging it can be to start having those conversations. And my experience of every single event is that people have come with those same reservations, being a little bit concerned, feeling really awkward, feeling uncomfortable, but they've left actually really enjoying the day. Even if they haven't made a match, it has helped people grow in confidence. As parents, as family members, this is one of those sort of responsibilities that we have, and that we want to make sure that we, you know, help guide our children through sort of all of these different stages in their life. Marriage is no less important, even if we feel, you know, that it's difficult and challenging. You know, I remember finding it difficult and challenging to leave my babies at the nursery for the first time, but we do it because it's the right thing to do as parents. And this is one of those things. So if you have a young person and they are looking to get married, then please help them do that. You know, even if they're you know, sort of unsure that this is the right way for them. You know, I promise you that it's not going to be awkward. It's not going to be difficult. It's going to be a very gentle introduction to that world. But I hope that what it will do is help build your confidence. You know, ultimately, if this is something that you want and what your young person, your son or your daughter wants, then we should do something about that. And actually sitting around waiting for something magical to happen is not going to work. Our children are entitled to marry the type of person that they want. And parents, if you're listening and there's a person that you want and perhaps your young person is not interested, then please listen. And try this as an alternative means of saying, okay, let's try something else. Again, I've had young people say to me, you know, my mum wants me to marry X, Y, or Z, but I'm not sure, and she's not willing to consider somebody else. So mums and dads, if you're listening, please be open to that. We don't want to be a barrier to our children getting married. It's it's an important part of our lives. It's an important part of our faith. So please don't be a barrier. It's a lovely evening. Worst case scenario, you can sit with me and chat. Worst case scenario, I hasten to add, sit and chat with me. It will be a nice evening, and it will be the first step to ensure that we are doing our job as parents.
Absolutely. Listeners, we are now heading over to the end of the show, and I want to say a huge thank you to you, Rahana,
Thank you for
because
having me.
you have really understood the event, and inshallah, I'm sure those that are tuned in today that are thinking for the first time, they are going to come just to have a chat with you, maybe.
Please.
Just to have a chat with Rihanna. So yes, I have no doubt that listeners were taking something positive from today's show. So inshallah, I hope the event is a success, inshallah. And don't forget to register your places. And
it is £30. I've double checked.
Yes, okay. There is an event running at Bushmead, which is a Bushmead Community Centre, which is a pre-charity bazaar. This is on Saturday, 17th of February, 12:30 to 5:30. Assalamu alaikum.
Hello, this is Rumki Chaudhary. I'm from Sweden.